Here's what police say happened. Officers entered Children's Hospital before noon on Thursday after they were tipped off that a convicted felon was there armed with a gun. Now, they say they confronted the man you see pictured here, now identified as Ashanti Hendricks, while he was holding a baby. Police say Hendricks put the baby down, began to leave with officers, but then attempted to flee down a hallway. Police Chief Flynn tells CBS 58 that the officers fired after the suspect waved his gun. The chief addressed questions about why officers went to the neonatal unit to confront the man.
What if he decides not to come out? What if it turns out there's a domestic violence circumstance going on? What if it turns out he doesn't want to let go of the baby? What if? All right? We have these reports. It's our moral obligation to investigate these reports and put ourselves at physical risk to do it. I think we want to remember that as we march forward with our ex post facto judgments.
Now, the questions about police handling of the situation could linger, and CBS 58 has been talking to legal experts about that.
Yeah, local attorney Alex Flynn joins us live in the newsroom right now. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Alex, the police department says they first received a call from inside the hospital, and on the way to the hospital, they confirmed that the suspect had a felony warrant. What are the laws about police confronting suspects in places where there are vulnerable people, like hospitals, or is the bottom line that they have to protect and serve everywhere?
Well, we still need more facts to come out here as to when we evaluate their conduct. So if there's a warrant out for this guy, and it's a bench warrant, which is what it appears to be, that's somewhat concerning about what happened here, because bench warrants are routinely given at the end of the calendar call in criminal courts throughout the state. If someone doesn't show up to court, summarily, a bench warrant is issued so that if they get picked up, they get brought back to court. But those are generally what I call opportunistically enforced. In other words, they just lie on the books until the guy gets pulled over for a speeding ticket or gets picked up on some other matter, then he gets brought back in. It's somewhat unusual for the policeman to go out and actually execute a somewhat routine bench warrant. But in terms of analyzing their conduct, we need a lot more information. I think that 911 call is going to be very revealing. If, in fact, what motivated them to go to a neonatal unit of an urban hospital with vulnerable month-old infants lying about, seeking a man, I suspect there's going to be some domestic violence component to that call, like I'm afraid for my life, I saw the butt of a gun in his belt, something like that. That would be then, in my mind, a difficult day we live in these days, but in my mind then that would somewhat more justify what occurred here.
And Alex, you bring up a very worthwhile point there about the 911 call. We'll be waiting to find out what those tapes sound like when we get those. But in the meantime, we also want to know, would the police have faced any legal liability if they waited and something bad had happened while they were outside?
No, and look, let's be fair here. These policemen have an enormously difficult job, and 99.9% of the people in the Milwaukee Police Department are doing a very good, honorable, difficult job. And what we do is we endow them with enormous discretion in the exercise of effectuating arrests and enforcing warrants. And so there is some constitutional limitation on what they can do. But we give them enormous discretion, and they're largely immune from lawsuit. Now, the only viable lawsuit that should be explored here, again, after more facts are adduced, is whether or not there is a 1983 with a civil rights claim by the people, the parents in that hospital. But there, the law is pretty clear that for a viable 1983 civil rights claim to be brought, they must be the object somewhat of the police conduct. They can't just be innocent bystanders. So I don't think there's going to be a viable claim here. But again, more facts have to come out.
All right. Thank you very much, Alex Flynn, explaining the issues for us and providing some insight this morning.